Before Belgium was a kingdom, it was a place of powerful ideas. It was a land caught between great empires, a crossroads of Europe. In 1790, a spark of rebellion lit up the Austrian Netherlands. This was the Brabant Revolution. The people rose up. They wanted freedom. They formed a new, short-lived nation, the United Belgian States. And like all new nations, they needed their own money. This wasn't just about trade, it was about identity. It was a statement, struck in metal, that they were a people united, standing on their own feet. These coins were whispers of a future that was yet to come, a future they were fighting for. The coins they created were full of meaning. They told a story. The main coin was the Lion d'Or, the golden lion. On one side you would find a magnificent lion, the symbol of Brabant. This wasn't just any lion. This lion held a sword, a symbol of its strength and its readiness to defend its newfound liberty. It also held a shield bearing the word Libertas, freedom. This one word, pressed into gold and silver, was the heart of the revolution. It was a promise. It was a declaration to the world, and to the great Austrian Empire, that they would not be ruled from afar. They were their own masters, now. On the other side of these coins, another powerful story was told. You could see two hands clasped in a firm handshake. This was the symbol of the union, of the different provinces coming together as one. Below the handshake, a bundle of 11 arrows was bound together. Each arrow represented one of the founding states of the new union. The message was clear. Separately, an arrow is weak and easily broken, but together, bound as one, they are strong. This was an ancient symbol, but it had a new, urgent meaning here. It was a plea for unity in the face of a powerful enemy. The mottos on these revolutionary coins were just as important. They were written in Latin, the language of scholars and the church, a language that carried weight in history. One common motto was Domini est regnum, meaning the kingdom is the Lord's. This was a direct challenge to the divine right of kings claimed by the Austrian emperor. It said that true sovereignty came from God, not from a foreign monarch. Another motto, In Unione Salus, meaning in union strength, reinforced the message of the bound arrows. These coins were more than just money. They were propaganda. They were tools of a revolution, spreading its ideals with every transaction from hand to hand. The dream of 1790 was brief. The United Belgian States lasted less than a year, but the seed of independence had been planted. It took another 40 years, but in 1830, Belgium finally broke away from the Netherlands and became a kingdom. A new country needs a new currency. So, in 1832, the Belgian franc was born. This was a hugely important step. It was a way of showing the world that Belgium was a serious modern nation. It was a symbol of its economic independence and its own distinct identity. The new king, Leopold I, was a clever man. He knew that money wasn't just for buying things, it was for building a nation. The new Belgian franc was designed to be practical. It was made equal in value to the French franc. This was a very smart move. It made trade with its powerful southern neighbor France much easier. It plugged Belgium straight into the economic heart of Europe. The first coins were made of familiar materials. There were copper cents and silver coins in various franc denominations. For larger values, there were beautiful gold coins. This system of using both gold and silver to back the currency is called bimetallism. It was a common system at the time, believed to provide stability and flexibility for a country's economy. The designs of these first coins were simple but elegant. They had to establish the authority of the new kingdom, so on one side, you would find the portrait of the new king, Leopold I. His image on the coin spread his likeness across the land. It made the monarchy real for ordinary people. It showed them who was in charge. On the other side was the Belgian coat of arms, featuring the lion and the value of the coin. The motto L'union fait la force, which means unity makes strength, was written in French. This was a direct echo of the revolutionary coins of 1790. The dream of unity had survived. Belgium's new currency system soon became part of a bigger story. In 1865, Belgium joined France, Switzerland and Italy to form the Latin Monetary Union. This was a remarkable agreement. All the countries in the Union agreed that their gold and silver coins would have the same weight and purity. This meant that a Belgian 5-franc coin was worth the same as a French 5-franc coin or an Italian 5-lira coin. You could spend them in any of those countries. It was like an early version of the euro. It was a bold experiment in international cooperation, and it showed that the young nation of Belgium was a confident and forward-thinking player on the European stage. Belgium is a country with more than one voice. From its very beginning, it has been a land of two major languages, French and Dutch. For the first 50 years of the kingdom, however, you wouldn't know it by looking at the coins. The mottos and legends were all in French. L'union fait la force. This was the language of the government and the elite at the time, but the Dutch-speaking people of Flanders were growing in number and influence. They wanted their language, their culture, to be recognized. They wanted to see it and hear it in the daily life of the nation, and that included the money they used every day. The change finally came in 1886. It was a quiet revolution, but a deeply significant one. For the first time, coins were minted with Dutch text. The national motto appeared as Eendracht macht macht. This was a huge moment. It was an official acknowledgement that Belgium was a bilingual country. It showed that the nation was evolving, that it was listening to all of its people. From then on, coins were often produced in two versions, one with French text and one with Dutch. Sometimes a coin would even have both languages on it. These coins became a mirror of the country's complex identity, a daily reminder of its dual heritage. This period also saw the rise of brilliant artists who left their mark on Belgium's coins. One of the most important was a man named Alphonse Michaud. He was an engraver at the Brussels Mint. His work was beautiful. He had a great talent for creating detailed and lifelike portraits of the monarchs, Leopold I and Leopold II. His designs were not just functional, they were works of art in miniature. When you hold one of his coins, you can see the skill and care that went into it. The lines of the king's hair, the texture of his uniform, it's all there. Michaud helped to give Belgian coins a reputation for quality and elegance. The coins from this era tell a story of a country finding its balance. They show a nation grappling with its identity, learning to embrace its different parts. The introduction of Dutch was more than just a change of words. It was a change in mindset. It was a step towards a more inclusive idea of what it meant to be Belgian. The artists like Michaud, meanwhile, were giving this identity a beautiful face. They were creating coins that were not just tools for the economy, but also sources of national pride. They were small metal canvases that captured the spirit of a maturing nation. The 20th century arrived with a storm. The Great War, World War I, tore Europe apart, and Belgium was right at the center of it. In 1914, the German army invaded. The country was occupied. This was a disaster for the people, and it was a disaster for the economy. The occupying forces took control. They seized the country's gold and silver reserves. Precious metals became scarce. People started hoarding any silver or gold coins they had. They vanished from circulation. The country was left without proper money to function. It was a time of great hardship and uncertainty, and the coins of the period tell this story. During the German occupation, official coin production stopped, but people still needed to buy food and supplies. To solve this problem, towns and local communities started to make their own emergency money. This was called necessity money. It was often made from cheap materials like zinc or iron because that's all that was available. Sometimes it was even made from cardboard. These were not beautiful coins, they were rough, functional objects born out of desperation. But they are incredibly powerful historical documents. They show us how ordinary people tried to keep life going, how they adapted and survived in the middle of a terrible war. After the war ended in 1918, Belgium was free but broken. The country had to be rebuilt. The economy was in ruins. The old currency system tied to the Latin monetary union was no longer working. The war had destroyed the trust and stability that held it together. One by one, countries left the union. In 1926, Belgium officially abandoned it. This was the end of an era. The dream of a shared European currency had been shattered by the war. Belgium now had to find a new path for its money, a way to make the franc strong and stable again on its own. The hardship wasn't over. Just as Belgium was getting back on its feet, another global crisis hit, the Great Depression of the 1930s. Economies all over the world collapsed. To cope with this, governments often had to devalue their currency. Devaluation means officially reducing the value of your money compared to other currencies or to gold. It makes the things you sell to other countries cheaper, which can help your economy. But it also makes the things you buy from other countries more expensive. Belgium had to devalue the franc multiple times during these years. It was a difficult and painful process, a sign of the deep economic struggles the country was facing. In the turbulent years between the two world wars, Belgium tried a bold experiment to fix its money problems. The franc was weak, and, The memory of wartime inflation was still fresh. The government needed to restore confidence. So, in 1926 they introduced a new unit of currency called the belga. The belga was worth 5 Belgian francs. It was created mainly for international trade and was tied directly to the value of gold. The idea was to create a strong, stable currency that the rest of the world would trust. It was a psychological move as much as an economic one. It was an attempt to draw a line under the past and start again. For a while, Belgium had a strange dual currency system. Prices were often quoted in both francs and belgas. Banknotes were printed with both values on them. However, only a few actual belga coins were ever minted. They were beautiful but rare pieces, struck in nickel and silver, showing the portrait of King Albert I. For most people, the franc remained the money they used every day. The belga was an idea, a concept that existed more in banks and on international markets than in the pockets of ordinary Belgians. It was a symbol of the struggle to find stability in a very unstable world. The Second World War brought even more disruption. Once again, Belgium was occupied by Germany, and once again, the country's coinage was turned upside down. Precious metals like copper and nickel were needed for the war machine, so the occupying forces ordered that all new coins be made from zinc. Zinc is a cheap gray metal. It corrodes easily. The zinc coins from this period are often dark and pitted. They feel cheap and temporary. They are a perfect reflection of the bleakness and poverty of the occupation years. They are the coins of a country under duress, waiting for liberation. The Belga experiment did not survive the Second War. When Belgium was liberated in 1944, the country faced the massive task of rebuilding its economy once more. The Belga was quietly abandoned. The franc became the sole currency again. This whole period from the end of the Latin Monetary Union to the end of World War II was one of constant crisis and change for Belgian money. It shows how deeply a country's coins are connected to its history. They're not just metal discs. They are shaped by wars, by economic depressions, and by the constant search for stability and confidence in a chaotic world. Section 6. Rebuilding a Kingdom Post-War Modernization. After the turmoil of the Second World War, Belgium, like the rest of Europe, began the long and difficult task of rebuilding. This was a time of modernization, of looking to the future. This new spirit was reflected in the country's coins. New materials were introduced. Metals like cupro-nickel and bronze aluminium replaced the old silver and the wartime zinc. These new alloys were cheaper, harder wearing, and more suitable for a modern industrial economy. The coins looked and felt different. They were brighter, cleaner, and more uniform. They were the coins of a country that was getting back to business, a nation focused on recovery and progress. A curious thing happened with the coin designs during this period. For nearly 50 years, from the end of the war until the 1990s, the portrait of the reigning king disappeared from most of the coins used in daily circulation. This was a big break with tradition. Instead of the king's head, the coins featured more abstract or symbolic designs. There were images of miners, representing the country's industrial strength, or the head of Ceres, the Roman goddess of agriculture. This was partly due to the royal question, a political crisis surrounding King Leopold III's actions during the war. It was a sensitive time, and keeping the monarch's portrait off the coins was a way to avoid political controversy. Economically, the world was changing fast. In 1944, Belgium joined the Bretton Woods Agreement. This was a new international system designed to prevent the kind of economic chaos that had led to the war. Under this system, the values of world currencies were tied to the US dollar, which in turn was tied to gold. This brought a period of stability. The Belgian franc was pegged to the dollar. This means its value was fixed at a certain rate against the American currency. This system provided a predictable environment for international trade and helped to fuel the economic boom of the 1950s and 60s. However, this stability didn't last forever. The Bretton Woods system came under pressure and eventually collapsed in the early 1970s. This led to a period of floating exchange rates and economic uncertainty. The Belgian franc, like many other currencies, had to be devalued again. To create more stability in Europe, Belgium later decided to peg its franc to the strong German currency, the Deutsche Mark. This was part of a European system nicknamed the Snake. It was another step on the long road towards closer European economic cooperation. It was a sign that the future of the franc was no longer just a Belgian story, but a European one. Section 7. The Dawn of a New Currency, the Journey to the Euro. By the end of the 20th century, the dream of a single European currency, a dream that had flickered with the Latin monetary union over 100 years earlier, was becoming a reality. The European Union was moving towards monetary union. For Belgium, this meant saying goodbye to the franc, a currency that had been a symbol of the nation for over 160 years. On January 1, 1999, the euro was officially born as an electronic currency. The exchange rate between the franc and the euro was permanently fixed. 1 euro was set to be worth exactly 40.3399 Belgian francs. This number became a magic number, a bridge between the old money and the new. For 3 years the euro existed only on paper, in bank accounts and financial markets. People in Belgium still used franc coins and banknotes for their daily shopping. But everything was changing behind the scenes. Prices in shops started to be displayed in both francs and euros. It was a time of preparation and education. People had to get used to the new values. They had to learn to think in euros. It was a huge mental shift. The government ran campaigns to help people understand the change. Calculators with a special franc to euro conversion button became a common sight in homes across the country. The big day was January 1, 2002. This was when the new euro coins and banknotes were finally introduced into circulation. It was a massive logistical operation. Banks had to be stocked with billions of new coins and notes. For a short period of 2 months, both the Belgian franc and the euro were legal tender. You could pay for your groceries in francs and get your change back in euros. It was a strange transitional time. The old and the new existed side by side in people's wallets. Then on March 1, 2002, the franc ceased to be legal tender. Its long journey was over. What happened to all the old money? Billions of old franc coins and notes had to be taken out of circulation. People were encouraged to bring their old money to the banks to exchange it for euros. The deadline for exchanging coins was the end of 2004. After that they became worthless, except as collector's items. The old banknotes, however, could be exchanged at the National Bank of Belgium for a much longer time. It was a final, drawn-out farewell to a currency that had seen the country through revolutions, wars, and periods of great change. The franc was now a piece of history. Section 8. A united Europe in your pocket, the Belgian euro coins. The arrival of the euro meant a whole new set of coins for Belgium. One of the clever things about the euro is that every coin has a common European side and a national side. The common side is the same in all Eurozone countries. It shows a map of Europe and the value of the coin. It's a symbol of unity. But the national side is different for each country. It's a space where each nation can display its own symbols, its own identity. This was Belgium's chance to decide how it wanted to present itself to the rest of Europe, on these small metal discs. For its first series of euro coins, issued in 2002, Belgium chose a single, consistent design for all 8 denominations, from the 1-cent coin to the 2-euro coin. The design was simple and dignified. It featured the portrait of the reigning monarch at the time, King Albert II. His profile was shown alongside his royal monogram, a crowned A. Surrounding the image were the 12 stars of the European Union. The design connected the Belgian monarchy with the wider European project. It was a modern, forward-looking design created by the artist Jan Alphonse Koistermans. It was a clear and elegant statement of Belgium's place in the new Europe. Over the years, the design of the Belgian euro coins has been updated. This is often because of changes in European rules or changes in the monarchy. In 2008, the design was slightly modified to comply with new European guidelines. Then, in 2014, a new series of coins was issued. This was because King Albert II abdicated and his son became King Philippe. The new coins feature the portrait of King Philippe, along with his royal monogram, a crowned FP. This continues the tradition of featuring the head of state on the coins, a tradition that had been paused for much of the post-war period. Beyond the standard coins, Belgium, like other Eurozone countries, also issues special commemorative 2-euro coins. These coins have the same common European side, but the national side features a unique design to celebrate a special event or anniversary. Belgium has issued coins to celebrate the Atomium, the famous Brussels landmark, to honor the Red Cross, and to mark important historical events. These coins are legal tender everywhere in the Eurozone, but they are also highly sought after by collectors. They are a way for Belgium to share its culture and history with people all across the continent, turning everyday money into a miniature exhibition. Section 9. Echoes in metal. the enduring legacy of Belgian coinage. Looking back at the long journey of Belgian coins is like looking at the history of the nation itself, written in metal. From the revolutionary lion of 1790, roaring for freedom, to the modern euro symbolizing a united continent, these small objects tell a grand story. They are not just tokens for buying and selling, they are artifacts. They carry the echoes of political upheaval, the scars of war, and the quiet determination of a people building and rebuilding their country. Each change in design, in metal, in language, marks a turning point in the nation's story, a response to the challenges and opportunities of the time. The coins of Belgium are a powerful lesson in identity. They show us a country constantly defining and redefining itself. We see this in the shift from the revolutionary motto of 1790 to the royal motto of 1832. We see it most clearly in the introduction of the Dutch language alongside French, a recognition of the country's dual heritage. Even the absence of the king's portrait for decades after the war tells a story about a complex period in the nation's political life. These coins were a canvas on which the very idea of what it meant to be Belgian was explored and expressed for all to see. The economic story told by these coins is just as dramatic. We see the ambition of the Latin monetary union, an early attempt at a shared currency. We see the desperation of the zinc coins of 2 world wars, and the strange experiment of the belga. We witness the constant struggle for stability through devaluations and currency pegs, first to gold, then the dollar, then the German mark. This journey shows how vulnerable a small country's economy can be, but also how resilient and adaptable it must be to survive in a changing world. The final step into the euro was the culmination of this long search for economic security. Today, the old Belgian francs are no longer in our pockets, but they have not lost their value. For historians, they are primary sources, direct evidence of the past. For collectors, they are treasured objects of beauty and rarity, miniature works of art that connect them to a specific time and place. They remind us that money is never just money. It is a symbol of sovereignty, a tool of politics, and a mirror of society. The story of Belgian coinage is a testament to the nation's fascinating, complex, and enduring journey at the very heart of Europe.